When I mention the company Naughty Dog, what game do you think of? Uncharted? The Last of Us, probably? Naughty Dog is now a major developer for PlayStation and has been for over 2 decades, bringing us some of the most cinematic and graphically impressive games on the consoles. But before that, Naughty Dog released Keep the Thief, Rings of Power, and of course, a little game called Crash Bandicoot. What a legendary title Crash is. I remember the console wars well back then. Nintendo and Sega were competing, and this little company Sony popped in and started gaining attention. Sony's PlayStation definitely had a cool vibe about it, and largely in part to Crash Bandicoot and the marketing they did with this mascot costume. These ads were legendary. Crash was everywhere, and spawned several games on the PlayStation 1 itself, and it's no wonder these games were so successful. They were charming, graphically impressive at the time, the gameplay was fun, and of course, they were packed with mysteries. Let's take a little looky-poo at Crash Bandicoot on the PS1 and see what we can uncover. This is the Mysteries of Crash Bandicoot. Aku Aku's human form. Just in general, Aku Aku is a bit bizarre. A floating wooden magical mask with feathers sticking out on top. In the game manual, Aku Aku is described as the protector of the islands we're navigating through, and seeing as Crash is going to stop Dr. Cortex, he decides to assist him. He is also described as the spirit of a witch doctor inhabiting the mask, or rather, masks. There are tons that have been scattered throughout the world by him specifically for Crash. Now, is he 100% of the time in the mask, or does he have a body? It would seem that he isn't in one specific mask, but that his spirit inhabits whatever mask Crash can grab. And Aku Aku can only possess one mask at a time, which is why they sit still until you grab them. I'd be inclined to think that he's just a spirit and has no physical body anymore based on what we see and read. But how would he scatter the masks around otherwise? We can also assume he made them physically at one point. In the prototype and concept of the game, when it was known as Willy the Wombat, Aku Aku indeed had a body and was part of a witch doctor tribe. Maybe the same tribe Papu Papu was? Also, apparently Aku Aku in Eastern Island mythology refers to a humanoid spirit, which fits perfectly, but Naughty Dog just named him after a crappy restaurant they went to. No matter how you look at him, he's very mysterious. And how does he make your entire body indestructible by wearing him on your face? He himself will fall apart if you take damage before that. Do you think he's a spirit in a mask at all times, or do you think his human form exists out there somewhere? Ripperoo. If you sit on the title screen in the game, you can trigger an opening cutscene that reveals the plot of Crash Bandicoot. Cortex is experimenting on animals, attempting to create an animal army to rule the world. He uses a device called the Evolve Array to evolve animals into super intelligent creatures, and then uses the Cortex Vortex for brainwashing. He started pulling animals from the previous islands. Ripperoo, the second boss in the game, is described as taking 1 or 2 too many zaps from the Evolve Array and basically went crazy. He shows no real sign of intelligence and just jumps platform to platform in our fight while wearing a straitjacket. So if this Evolve Array is supposed to turn animals into human-like levels of intelligence, why did it make Ripper go crazy? Is he actually crazy? Or is he a secret genius? Well, according to the end credits, yes. He ended up going to therapy and then get a PhD and wrote a book called Through the Eye of the Vortex, a study of rapid evolution and its consequences. Based on the title of that book, I'd assume the rapid evolution of so many zaps from the Evolve Array accelerated his brain development too much in a short time span, and he needed time to acclimate to it. Is Tawna free? In the unlockable bonus stages you get by collecting all of the Tawna icons throughout a level, you are transported to a world where you're tasked with breaking every crate and reaching the end. At the end, Tawna, our main reason for going to defeat Cortex, can be seen standing there waving as we go on our way. But why is she here? In the American version of Crash, she is seen waving to us as we go before the screen cuts away. But in the Japanese version, she actually disappears, almost like teleportation, or she wasn't there in the first place. Most likely the sequence is either in Crash's imagination, or Tawna has some sort of method of escaping her imprisonment briefly. I honestly think Crash is just imagining her at the end of the bonus levels. I mean, piggybacking off of what I talked about previously, he could be a little cuckoo from the Evolve Array. Just look at that face when he gets all the Tawna icons. Wumpa Island's business. In Crash, we see tons of levels packed to the brim with Wumpa fruits inside crates. But have you ever wondered why? Aside from being something fun to collect by the developers and adding a challenge, in-game we learn something about the natives. Papu Papu, the first boss we encounter in the end, sells the ruins of Cortex Castle and opens up a big and tall shop on the island. It seems to me he's a businessman. I believe this wasn't his first venture. His first venture being the distribution of the island's most plentiful resource, the Wumpa fruit. I also think this is why he's mad at Crash. Papu Papu is not working for Cortex. I think he's angry at Crash for interfering with his business and destroying all the crates and eating the Wumpa fruit. I mean, just for being woken up, attacking someone feels very extreme. I think he saw an opportunity to smack that Bandicoot for disrupting his business. Having a thriving business would answer why he's mad at Crash and why there are tons of crated fruit across the islands. Evil Hands. In the level Slippery Climb, as we scale the side of Cortex's castle, we encounter these enemies shrouded in darkness, reaching out from a barred window attempting to grab us. These are referred to as Evil Hands. Now, who or what are they? It seems to reason that these are some more failed experiments of Cortex. We don't really see anything behind the bars other than their glowing eyes, but the hands do look oddly human. Apparently in the Insane Trilogy remake, they show these as old men behind the bars. If we're armed with that, pun intended, I like to think that these are the tribesmen that Cortex kidnapped and experimented on, trying to create workers for himself he could control. He probably used the Cortex Vortex to brainwash them and they went crazy and were completely out of his control, which is why he locked them up. We can see that he has a few human lab assistants, but it seems humans in general may be harder to control, most likely because the Cortex Vortex doesn't appear to work very well. After human experiments failed, he moved on to animals, which he saw more success with. Aku Aku's alternate forms. Aku Aku doesn't just have one form, he technically has 4. Yes, 4. The base form that we all know and love, with the colored feathers on top, this is the one you typically see. Then he has a second golden form where he's stronger and able to tank 2 hits for the Bandicoot. Follow that up with the overflowing invincible form as he attaches to Crash's face, displaying more magic. But the 4th and final form we see on 2 levels in particular. First, in the level Lights Out, and then on the secret level, Fumbling in the Dark. Aku Aku takes on a translucent white form that emits a ton of light. It's necessary for these levels as they are pitch black. These masks are one-offs though, and only on these particular levels. We never see this form otherwise, though it does look pretty freaking cool. Are these special masks placed in this particularly dark area just in case? They must be. This would back up seemingly Aku Aku placing the masks everywhere to assist Crash in his adventure. Or, what if this is actually Aku Aku without a mask? What if this form is actually what Aku Aku looks like in spirit? He just didn't have a mask to possess. I mean, it does look pretty ghostly. Teleportation. Crash is traversing through all the islands, navigating back to Cortex's castle in order to save his girlfriend. That much makes sense. But when you enter and exit a level, you teleport in and teleport out. Crash is navigating through these areas like rivers, long pathways, and even scaling temples and other buildings. How does he have the ability to teleport in here and teleport out? Well, I think the answer is actually at the end of the level. It seems there are points and special platforms that allow him to teleport. At first, you may think Crash has the ability, or even Bandicoots in general, since Tawna seemingly teleported as mentioned earlier, but that wouldn't explain why Crash had to run away physically from Cortex and ended up drifting into the ocean till he washed up on land. I think Crash is just so familiar with these islands, he knows where the magic points of teleportation are, so he utilizes them to the best of his ability. And anyone who found these points could probably use them too. Though it seems Crash may be the only one that currently uses them, as he gets teleported to a temple and his face is painted on the wall. He probably did this himself just because it's like a secret place for him. He probably discovered all the teleportation secrets in the temples that no one else seems to venture into. Boulder Dash Faces. In Boulder Dash, when you reach the end of the level, if you've collected the color gem, you can fly down into a secret tunnel. It's lit epically, and you can score a lot of extra lives down here. What's weird though, at the end we can see painted or carved on the wall the faces of Cortex and Brio. Why would their faces be here? This is in a secret portion of the island underneath the temple. All I can figure is they found the place first and decided to commemorate that they found it. Perhaps this is where they found the gem we recovered. I guess Brio does spend a lot of time underground, because he does seem to like the green crystals from the mines for his potions, seemingly. Cortex N. Ever wondered why Cortex has a giant N on his head? Well, Joe Pearson, the co-artist on Crash Bandicoot, wrote an entire backstory for him and why he has that big N. Cortex was born to a large family of circus performers. He was abused by the performers, and the worst moment was when they held him down and tattooed an N on his forehead for nerd. His family seemingly was killed shortly after that in an unfortunate fireworks explosion. No malicious intent there, I'm sure. At least he lucked out, and his first name is Neo, so he can just pretend it doesn't stand for nerd, but his own name. Well, that's all I have for you. Be sure to smash the Wumpa fruit out of that like button to help support and spread my content around. And drop a little spin down to that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Until next time, have a good one.
Jiggylookback!